So, this is the White Squirrel YouTube channel, and today I'm thinking about attention deficit disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and addiction. I've never gotten addicted to hard drugs, or I've never really had an addiction to alcohol. In fact, when I was thinking about attention deficit disorder in the very beginning and thinking about, am I really ADHD? And of course, everybody would answer, yes, you are, Josh. For some reason, I think about that diagnosis, and there's a part of me that doesn't want to be. Just because it feels like there's something wrong. Anyway, when I was thinking about that diagnosis, and one of the things is it's genetic. I was reading that it's very, very often genetic. It's if you've got it, you probably have a parent or a child with ADHD. And I was thinking, I don't think my kids really have it. We wondered if my third son, when he was going into the fifth grade, we wondered if he was ADHD and if he needed help with drugs. Like Adderall, or I don't even know what it was called back then, but it doesn't matter. But we wondered if he needed something, and we were transitioning from one school to another, and he actually, the school that we were putting the four kids into, we were putting them into a private school, and they required testing, and like psychological testing. And I guess there was some grade testing, some mental capacity testing and everything. And they really didn't have a spot for him in the fifth grade. I think they wanted to move him back to fourth. And it was just, there wasn't a spot. He couldn't go up to fifth grade no matter what. And so they were moving him back anyway, but they were also doing those testing. And basically in the testing, they said, he's borderline, maybe ADHD. But the lady doing the testing was talking to, Shantae and I as parents. And she said, well, we don't really need tests for you. We know you're highly, highly ADHD. Josh talking to me. And I thought, you didn't do any tests on me. How can you know that? That's not fair. She said, you ought to take one of Elijah's pills. We had decided to prescribe him pills. And we got one prescription. He wouldn't eat it. We had to sneak it into his peanut butter and his waffles. And when he discovered he was being drugged, he was mad as he could be. And it's funny, we made him go to that school, made him go a grade down from where he was supposed to be, kind of like he was repeating. And he was so upset. And he just was inconsolable. He was not going to get happy. And so we ended up moving him to a public school that we didn't want the kids to go to because it had lost accreditation. The high school in that area had lost accreditation at the time. And we ended up moving him to that public school and moving him to the grade he was supposed to be in. And it looked like he was going to struggle, academically. And when he figured out that we had been giving him medicine, he pretty much put an end to it as a fifth grader. And this sounds like we're weak parents and couldn't tell him what he was going to do, and maybe we were, I don't know, but we were, our parenting style was kind of a mix between being very hard and stern about some things, and giving our children the ability to make their own decisions and some other things. Anyway, long story short, what happens is he gets off of the medication and then makes a mental decision that he's going to succeed, and he does. He actually thrives in the public school. The other 3 kids are in the private school. They end up staying there for 1 year because our 3rd son thrived so much in the public school system, where we had been concerned about some accreditation issues. He just thrived. He did so well. And boy, I'm telling a long story here, and this channel's supposed to be about me, but I figured out that he had either not had ADHD at all, or he had figured out what it took to overcome it and did. This conversation is supposed to be about ADHD and addiction. And anyway, I was trying to say I'm not ADHD because it's genetic and nobody in my, but you know what? As I thought about it, I guess I didn't realize that anybody had, because I wasn't raised with my biological father. My biological father was absent most of my life. And around 18 years old, I meet my biological father for the first significant time. And I get to know him, which is about the same time I'm getting married. My wife and I get married. And so I kind of get to know my biological father a little bit from 18 on. And there's no doubt he was, off the charts, ADHD. Looking at him from this seat, from me, from my perspective, I can see it. And now, that helps me admit, okay, yes, it is genetic. It is me. It is something that I'm dealing with. But my biological father was also an addict. Later in his life, he said, alcohol's not my addiction, I can drink. And he drank a little bit. I think he didn't understand that when he would say, alcohol's not my addiction, he didn't understand what addiction was at all. And for him, it wasn't, and you know what, I say this like I'm a professional and I know the answers, and I don't. This is a YouTube channel where I'm talking out loud and I'm thinking, so don't use anything I say to prescribe your situation or you. But what I am saying here is that I think my dad didn't realize that his problem wasn't a specific addiction. He didn't know whether to go to AA or NA or SA or some other thing, because he didn't realize that his problem wasn't a specific addiction. His problem was addiction in general. It was just that our brains, as ADHD, our dopamine levels don't regulate like they're supposed to. And I'm just saying it like that because I don't want to go any deeper, because I don't know the science about it, and I'm afraid I'll say it wrong. But bottom line is, addiction for people with ADHD, it's not that we get, and maybe we do as well, and maybe our addictive personality will take us into a place where we get chemically addicted to a specific substance. But I think that more than that chemical addiction to a specific substance, what happens with us is we just have this addictive personality, whether it's porn or sex or drugs or alcohol. Or for me, I was kind of raised, an old pastor of mine used to say that his wife was raised like 10 miles from the nearest known sin. And that's not the way I was raised exactly, but I was raised pretty in a pretty religious home, and a pretty structured, let's stay away from anything that could be dangerous kind of atmosphere. And as a result, my addiction as I grew older became to sweets and sugar, and the thing for me was if I was watching a television with friends or family or whoever, my brain would wander and I couldn't even focus on the TV show long enough to keep all of the faces and the names and the plots going together. And I learned over time that, well, let me tell you about, I learned in high school that the only way I could pay attention in history class was to do my math homework during history class. Now, I'm not advocating for that. If you're a young adult and you think, or a teenager, or you're a child and you're thinking, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to do math homework during history class so that I can focus. That may not be the best thing, and I'm not advocating for that. But for me, I learned that I could do my math homework that almost took no, it didn't take up a lot of the RAM in my brain. I always make this crazy sound when I'm thinking. But it didn't take up a lot of the RAM in my brain, and as a result, if I did my math homework, I could hear better what the teacher was talking about in history class, and I would retain it better because the math kept my brain activated, and it kept it from just wandering from subject to subject, and I heard the history. And I learned that when I wanted to watch television or a movie or something, if I was eating, I was activating something that kept me eating. And as a result, I could see the TV show or movie better and stay more engaged and pay more attention. And that caused me to be overweight. So we're talking about my weight. We're doing that thing where I take my shirt off, and it's kind of embarrassing because this is week 5, and I don't know that you can tell any change in my body. But I'm going to keep doing this because eventually, hopefully, we will see a change in my body. God, please. And so anyway, long story short, I'm talking about addiction. And, one of the first weeks of this journey, I started not eating with screens. I think that's going to be the biggest life changer for me, period. Not eating. So now in the evening, my daughter was sitting there. She's just graduated from college and she's home for the summer. And she was saying, what do y'all watch in the mornings on TV? And my wife and I, we don't watch TV pretty much all day long. We don't turn on the television until it's the end of the day and we're finished and we turn on the TV. And I used to eat and eat and eat, and cutting screens out, cutting eating in front of the TV out has been huge for me, and I can tell it's going to make a difference. But my weight at week 5 now is 280, is still in the 289 range, which is like 6 pounds ish down overall, but I'm still at the same place I was about a week ago. Looks like first 3 weeks almost no change. Week 4 I lost about 5 pounds. Here we are in week 5, and I'm steady with that 5 pound loss. And my sugar was it was better. It was in the 1. Let's see, what was my sugar? My sugar was 161 at week 5, and I've taken it at the same time on a Wednesday, and week 5 my sugar was 161 about that same time of the day. And so there you go. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should say in this podcast or this video, whatever this is. I think the key, what I want to think about today is, as you're thinking about ADHD and addiction, it's not so much that you get addicted to a specific thing, although you can get addicted to a specific thing, but it's just that lower dopamine level that causes you to look for things that cause you to have an addictive personality. And you know what? Scientists, medical people, psychologists, people that are going to, y'all subscribe, y'all watch, you're watching a real live ADHD adult try to figure it out, and you might correct me and change things, and I would love for that. I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions and knowledge. But long story short, today, the one thing I want you to think about if you're working through your adult attention deficit disorder. Remember that addiction is not a specific chemical. It is just that addictive personality in general. And here we go. We're going to do this take the shirt off thing. Oh, I'm going to step a little bit away from the camera because I don't want to be right there at it. But there you go. Week 5. Hopefully this weight loss journey will get better.